Hello and welcome to THINKpod, powered by the FII Institute. I'm your host, Mark Barton, and for over 2 decades, I've been at the forefront of global conversations on the issues that matter the most. In this series, I'll be meeting with the leaders who are rising to tackle the grand challenges that face humanity right now. Together, we'll be discussing the radical ideas and transformative solutions that'll benefit both people and planet. This episode, I'm joined by Somi Arian, tech philosopher, award-winning filmmaker, author, and entrepreneur. We explore her unique pivot from the death metal clubs of Berlin to the world of NFTs. Somi, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
What's the value of decentralization? Because you are passionate about decentralization, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about going back to the beginning of the dawn of human history, the earliest form of governance that we've had was monarchy. And there's always been this central figure or the supreme leader. I come originally from Iran, so that's something that I'm familiar with, right? And over time, as you go towards the 12th century, you see a parallel between how technology is changing the shape of governance. Yeah. So if you look at it, you see a parallel between money, technology, although I think of money as a form of technology. But here I'm separating the technology of tool making and the technology of money, right? So there's a parallel between money, economy, so the shape of money, economy, technology, and governance. And then the shape of money is basically you start with salt, and then there's glass beads, then you have stones, right? At the same time, you see in terms of economy, the shape of economy is about slavery, and then you have technology is very simple tools. Yeah. Then you come to around 12th to 16th century, you see the fueling mill is the early technology, which is the precursor to the Industrial Revolution. At that same time, you see the rise of elite, so it's a little bit more decentralized, right? You see the rise of elite, the artists, the scientists. And for the first time, people are coming into power as a form of power through their talent. And then at that same time, you have the fueling mill, and then in terms of money, you start to see gold, and we start to get really much better at creating these types of non-perishable forms of money. Then you come to 17th to 19th century, you see we go into the first industrial revolution. At that same time, you see again another layer of decentralization, the separation of the church and the state. Yes. And then in terms of money, we start to see paper money coming in, but backed by gold, right? And then in terms of economy, we went from slavery to serfs and villains, and then we went to factory workers. And then you come into 20th century, you have representative democracy, so another layer of decentralization. We start to have digital banking system, so a little bit more decentralized, a little bit more control for the normal people, day-to-day people. And at the same time, you see we go into gig economy. And now we're coming to 21st century, it's another layer of decentralization. So decentralization is the next generation of democracy, simply put. Yes. So the first generation of democracy was a representative democracy. Now we are going into a more direct democracy. And this new democracy is powered by tokenization. Yeah. That's where the tokens come in. And it's powered by the blockchain technology.
Yes, and blockchain, I'm glad you brought it up. How will blockchain technology change the way that society operates?
Oh, it's fundamentally changing it. If you spend, do you have any NFTs?
I don't, but I'm interested. I know you do.
Yeah,
yes.
I have some serious NFTs.
And you've created them as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. So if you go into NFT communities, you're going to truly feel how it's changing. Yeah. So one of the biggest shifts that's happening right now is that community leaders can take their community wherever they want, right? So in the model of Mark Zuckerberg's, Facebook, it's basically like you don't own your community, right? If you're a content creator or if you're a brand, you create a following on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, but they may not be the same people, that you may not be able to reach them.
You don't take them
right?
with you.
And also every time you want to reach out to them, you're relying on the algorithm that is designed by those companies. And if they change the algorithm, for example, I have over 80,000 followers on LinkedIn. There was a time that anything I posted, people saw it. Now they don't see it because they've changed the algorithm.
They keep changing the algorithm, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas,
YouTube does the same.
Exactly. Whereas with the NFTs, it's amazing because with NFTs, you have your own audience and you control what they see. If they're your fans, they go with you wherever you are. And as long as they have that token, they can unlock. So the key...
Is that where the value lies?
Yes, that's one of the values, yes. Right? So the key to blockchain is your wallet, your digital wallet. Everything you unlock, everything with your digital wallet. And your digital wallet is not tied to your identity. Okay, this is the beauty of it. So that's why you can be pseudonymous. Nobody needs to know who you are if you didn't want to necessarily. As long as you have that wallet proves who you are. And your digital assets that are in it, they prove who you are.
On the subject of NFTs, tell us about Moonbird 9258.
That's my Moonbird.
Yeah.
Yes.
For those that don't know.
Moonbird is the second drop from another collection which is called Proof. I don't have a Proof pass yet, and I'm working on getting one. Right now, as we speak, it's sitting at around 80 ETH. That's $160,000 at today's price. But when ETH was around 3,000, and when I was buying my Moonbird, it was a lot more expensive. Yeah. So it makes me part of a very elite kind of group of people who are very early adopters of technology.
Yeah, this is like sort of Bored Apes,
yes,
and
yes.
You're part of a club,
yes.
a group of people. I mean, some say, NFTs don't understand it, speculative, frothy, just signs of a bubble. Given crypto is going through a bit of let's call it a correction, is there some truth in that?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
There is, and the truth of it is that these NFTs, they are not meant to be a speculative asset. They are meant to be a proof that you are part of a community, right? And the reason why they've become speculative is because they are limited editions. So if you want to become part of Moonbirds right now, you can't just go and buy a membership because there are only ever 10,000 Moonbirds. So the only way you can buy it is to go and offer somebody who has a Moonbird the amount of whatever that you think is worth it, right? And if they don't accept your offer, then you have to bid higher. So that's how it works. So you bid a price, and that's what increases the price.
Let's talk about women in technology, because you've outlined 6 issues holding women back in NFTs: shortfall in confidence, lack of skills, entrepreneurship, family relationships, women's health issues, lack of financial literacy. I mean, since the genesis of blockchain, the percentage of men in the crypto space has been far greater than women. So why is that, and how can that be changed?
In many ways, the blockchain or the crypto space is even more divisive, and it's actually the divide between the haves and have-nots, and the divide between men and women, the gender, it's actually even increased. And the reason for that is that it's a very steep learning curve, and most of the time, if women take time off to go have children, come back, if you fall back even a little bit, if I don't follow the news for a week, I feel like I'm so out of tune with everything. Things move so fast.
In crypto, a week's like a year in normal markets, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So all of these issues that you mentioned, it's a real big problem. And the other reason is that the foundation of everything to do with blockchain technology and tokenization is ownership. And women have been historically less owner of things, right? For many, many years, actually, in the country where I originally come from, Iran, women are owned, right? So ownership is the foundation of it. And women just own less assets, fewer assets.
How do men and women approach building businesses differently?
From my experience and from all of the research that I've done, women initially think more about impact, and they think more about the ethos and the ethics, whereas men first think about the business side of it.
Yes.
And the fact that women think about impact first, it's a very good thing, but it's not good when you want to raise investment, because they're like, why is this investor not interested in investing in my business when I'm going to be making all this impact? It's because they don't care about impact first. Yes. They care about profit first.
You've written a book, Career Fear and How to Beat It, and you talk about transition architecture, and you call yourself a transition architect.
Yes.
What is that, and why is it so important in the current age?
The best example I can give, Yuval Noah Harari, writer of Sapiens, once he was talking in an interview about the fact that in the past we thought of our identities as being like a house, and in the future, as we go through this exponential age, we have to think about it as more like a tent. And I think that's a great way of putting it, because if you are living in a tent, your identity, your money, everything means that you need to be ready to constantly pack it down and pack it up and go somewhere else. That's what the transition is. So that kind of it was that interview that he did that made me, inspired me to come up with this term, because I see myself as being a transition architect. Yes, yeah. which is basically somebody who will help people who want to be in the top 10% of people who are going to shape the future of humanity.
And you talk about the crucial skills that
Yes.
we need to innovate, to create new industries and career paths. What are those skills?
Yeah, sure. So those are emotional intelligence, contextual creativity, critical thinking, and mindfulness. And by mindfulness, I don't mean necessarily sitting down and meditating. I mean being present and being really absorbing everything that's happening around you and being an active participant, not a passive observer.
You wrote the book just prior to the pandemic,
Yes.
didn't you? And if you were writing the book now, given what we've learned since the pandemic, I mean, how much of your book would you have changed?
Nothing. No, because when I wrote the book, I thought about the book being... the only thing is maybe I would have talked more about blockchain technology,
right.
But other than that...
Hasn't COVID accelerated everything? Because in the book you talk about
yes.
this 5 to 10 year transition.
Yes.
It's gone quicker, has it?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
if it was going to be 5 to 15 years, now it's more like 3 to 5 years.
Wow. And who are transition architects out there?
They are the movers and shakers of our time.
Yeah.
These are people, if you think about, the future of humanity, it seems that only 10% of people, maybe less than 10%, are going to be creatives, because the rest of society are not just going to have anything to do. This is a big problem and we need to figure something out. But the transition architects are that 5 to 10% who are actually going to create.
How are transition architects tackling the subjects which are very close to our heart, sustainability?
Yes.
ESG.
Well, I mean, those are people like Elon Musk,
Yeah.
like all of the people who are caring about the future of humanity and the future of the planet and making it sustainable for everybody else, and the future generations.
Yeah. What role does blockchain play? I mean, Bitcoin gets a bad rap, and you could negate that first, but what role could blockchain play in our quest to leave an impact on humanity?
The way I see it, blockchain technology and tokenization enables us to align the incentives between different stakeholders of a system. This is what tokenization is really about, right? So if you think about Moonbirds, so the interest of the people who are part of Moonbirds is for the token value to go up over time. The interest of the creators is the same, so they're working together, because as the value of the token goes up, the value of the whole ecosystem goes up and everybody wins. In a similar way, you can use tokenization to solve problems like, recycling. If you have tokens that you can use tokenization to make it possible for people to get rewarded for recycling properly, for using less plastic. You could say that, whoever that uses less plastic, they get airdrop these tokens, right? And then the plastic manufacturing company, it's not in their interest, right? It's in their interest to create more consumption. But you can use that tokenization model to make it possible so that they also earn more tokens for creating an ecosystem that is less damaging. It's such a beautiful way of aligning incentives between everybody, and that's what the ethos of Bitcoin was about, right? So that's why it's leaderless. Like, it doesn't need a leader, because there is a aligning of incentive between the Bitcoin miners and the people who buy it and the people who the people who are running the nodes to maintain the system.
You mentioned Ethereum earlier. DeFi, it's this smart contract platform, a different beast to Bitcoin. Is there space for how many cryptos are there out there? 18,000. I mean, there's constant churn. Will Bitcoin be the last one standing? Is it the preeminent
I think Ethereum is not going anywhere.
Oh, it's staying with us, fine. So Bitcoin, Ethereum.
These two are the most, they have the biggest network effect, right?
And that's what it's all about.
Well, yeah.
A big part of it.
A big part of it, yeah. So there are other things that are trying, that there are other top 10 or top 20 that is also interesting to look at. Luna was one of them, right? But look what happened. And I have a lot of concerns around Solana right now.
Why is that?
Two biggest concerns that I have about Solana. One is inflation. Their inflation is too high. So they're printing a lot of SOL to maintain the system. And the second thing is that it keeps going down.
It was a darling, wasn't it? I mean, Luna, darling, boom, down. Solana was a darling. They all had their day in the sun, didn't they?
Yeah, and the only ones, and of course, Ethereum does have a lot of issues.
It's slow, it's costly,
expensive.
Gas fees, as it's known.
But then that's why it works so well in many ways, in the sense that, like, yes, it's costly, but it's something that you can trust.
Will the flippening happen? To those that don't know, the flippening is, could Ethereum overtake Bitcoin in size, in market cap? Is that possible?
It's entirely possible. Yes, entirely possible. But that doesn't mean, but Bitcoin and Ethereum do something very, very different, right? Different, right? It's like comparing apples to oranges. They're completely different things. It's entirely possible, but that doesn't matter because, Bitcoin has its value as a store value, as, means of exchange. Bitcoin is designed to be money. Ethereum is not designed to be money. Ethereum, I think of Ethereum as being like a cross between Amazon, Apple, Google. It's a base layer.
But we're not going to use Bitcoin to buy coffee, are we? I mean, it's too much of a risk.
No.
What happens if the price then goes up 3 times the next? What's the famous pizza story? Someone bought a pizza with a Bitcoin. 8 years ago? That pizza now it's gone down a bit, but it was a very expensive pizza given the increase in Bitcoin's price.
That's actually such a good point, and I always say until it's so volatile, people are not going to want to use it as a means of payment.
Yeah, but as a store of value.
As a store of value.
Do you think it'll overtake gold one day as a store of value?
Absolutely. According to Cathie Wood, she's thinking that Bitcoin could be over 100 trillion. So by 2030.
I've got to finish with the fact that you were in a death metal band.
Yes.
I mean, this is brilliant. You were in a death metal band called Mortad. You were the singer.
Yes.
What, is it on you? Can we find it? You're everywhere.
Yeah.
Death metal.
Yeah.
From death metal to transition architect. How?
Well, I've always been a philosopher. When I had the death metal band, I was studying political philosophy in St. Andrews University. I have 2 masters in politics and philosophy. And before that, I worked for United Nations, European embassies. I've always been in, studying the impact of technology on philosophy. So
what was the greatest moment of your death metal career?
Oh, yeah, it was supporting a band called Hatebreed in Germany.
Right.
Like, I've never seen anything like it. It was like the walls were sweating.
Was it a buzz?
It was incredible. Like, I've never
being the
seen
vocalist
like
as well.
Yeah.
Do you miss it?
I do. I'm still a lot on stage, so I still get
doing
the
other
connection.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I like being on stage and connecting with the audience.
What's the key to being a great communicator?
It's really feeling the audience, and trying to put yourself. I think I've got a real talent for like being able to put myself in their shoes and trying to speak from their point of view and their experience, and then kind of like trying to shake them a little bit as well.
Yeah, shake them. I like that. Somi, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. In these turbulent times, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to ThinkPod for more insight and analysis.